Welcome to All Architecture, the YouTube channel dedicated to, you guessed it, all things architecture, and this is Blueprints to Bookworms the Deep Divers, where we discuss about architectural books. In today's episode, architect Lena Arvidson and Doreen Costello are diving into A Pattern Language by Christopher Alexander. So, let's join in and explore some of the most interesting design patterns that can make our world more human and connected.
Hey there, ready to dive into A Pattern Language? This book by Christopher Alexander, it's about way more than just architecture, It's everywhere. Even software design uses his ideas.
Yeah, his influence goes way beyond just one field.
We're talking about what makes a space feel good, whether it's a house, a street, even online.
It's true. Alexander really wanted to get to the bottom of why some places just feel right.
Yeah.
Like whether it's a cafe that just feels cozy or a bustling street that just works. He was searching for the design secrets that make us feel good, connected.
So this deep dive, we're going through his book. It's kind of like a massive toolbox, right? Full of these solutions he calls patterns, 253 of them. We're going to break down some of the most interesting ones.
Sounds good.
And hopefully you can use these ideas to make your own spaces, like your home, your office, more enjoyable, more human. So are you ready to uncover some of these hidden design secrets?
Absolutely. And you've picked out some interesting ones from this book, that's for sure. It's a treasure trove.
Let's jump right in with pattern 126, Stair Seats.
Oi?
Sounds simple, right? But it's really clever. Alexander says that if you've got wide staircases, they should have places to sit built right in, so they become more than just a way to go up and down.
Yeah, it's amazing how such a simple idea can make such a big difference. Imagine, you're rushing up the stairs, you're late for work, and there's this little nook with a comfy seat, like a little break in your day, chance to just breathe for a second, maybe chat with a neighbor.
It's like those window seats you see in bookstores or a bench under a tree, those spots that just feel inviting, like they're meant for lingering.
Exactly.
And the coolest part is, this pattern can be used practically anywhere, right? Apartment buildings, offices, even outdoor spaces, anywhere with stairs, basically.
Exactly. And, this idea of stair seats, it gets at something much bigger that Alexander keeps coming back to, which is this idea of human-centered design. Basically, he's saying, hey, let's stop designing just for looks and start thinking about how people actually use these spaces.
Yeah.
Make our surroundings work for us.
Speaking of spaces that work for us, let's look at pattern 163, outdoor room. This one really got to me. Alexander says that every building should have access to an outdoor space, but not just any outdoor space. It's got to feel like a real extension of the living area.
Yeah, I love that one.
Sheltered from wind, some sun, some shade. It's like an extra room, but it's open to the elements.
Imagine just stepping out of your apartment, right into your own little oasis.
Yeah.
A place to have your coffee, read a book, get some fresh air. And it doesn't even need to be a huge space. It could be a small balcony, a rooftop, or even just a cozy little spot in the backyard.
And you know what's really cool about this pattern? It reminds us how connected we are to nature. Alexander was so ahead of his time, recognizing how vital it is to bring nature into our buildings and cities. It's not just about making things pretty, it's about our well-being.
Yeah, there's so many studies, right? Being in nature or even just having a view of it reduces stress, improves your focus.
Makes a huge difference.
Makes you feel better, yeah.
And think about this pattern on a bigger scale. Imagine a city street lined with trees, flowers, little parks, those green spaces tucked away here and there. It totally changes the entire experience of a city.
Absolutely makes it so much better.
Okay, one more design gem. Let's talk about pattern 241, sequence of sitting spaces. Now, this one's all about public spaces. It's the idea that when we have paths or walkways, we should have inviting places to sit along the way, like a rhythm of pauses.
I love that.
So instead of just rushing from A to B, what if there was a bench here, a shaded alcove there? It's like hitting the pause button on a busy day just for a moment. Gather your thoughts, watch the world go by.
Yeah. It's about making those everyday journeys more interesting, creating those little moments, Maybe you bump into a neighbor, or you have a quick chat with someone walking their dog, or maybe you just enjoy the view for a minute. Breaking up that straight path, I think it brings a sense of, discovery, delight.
Yeah, it's like turning a trip to the store into a mini adventure.
Right, exactly.
And it's not just about looks either, although it does make a public space nicer to look at. It's about making those spaces feel more human, more inviting.
Yeah. And when you have those little pauses, you're encouraging people to slow down, talk to each other, actually experience the space. It builds community.
You know, the thing I find so fascinating about these patterns is how timeless they are. Like, it doesn't matter what the current trends in architecture are.
No.
They're not about being trendy. They're about creating spaces that just feel good to be in, physically, emotionally. It's like Alexander tapped into something deeply human with these patterns.
They really are intuitive. It's like these hidden codes, that have always been there, shaping how we experience the world. They do, don't they? It's like Alexander found these sort of like these hidden codes, that make a place really come alive.
Yeah. And it's interesting. We've been talking about buildings, public spaces, but these ideas, they can apply to something as small as a room, right? Even a website or app.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, think about a well-designed website, right? They use visuals, clear navigation, just like a well-designed park uses paths, landmarks to guide you.
Yeah.
It's all about that intuitive flow. Whether you're walking down a street or, scrolling through a web page, makes you think.
It really is amazing how these design principles, they just go beyond any one field, right?
Totally.
Like a universal language of good design or something.
There really is. And that's what makes Alexander's work so important, I think, even now. It's not just about architecture. It's this bigger idea about creating a world that works better for us, that makes us feel good, connected.
Yeah. It makes you think differently about design, for sure.
Yeah.
So where do you see Alexander's influence today? Like, what are some examples that come to mind?
Oh, gosh, all over. I mean, look at co-working spaces. Those are huge now, right? And it's not just about desks and Wi-Fi. It's about designing those spaces for connection, collaboration. You'll see communal workspaces, comfy areas to hang out, even, those stair seats we talked about.
Right. It's like they took those patterns and said, okay, how do we apply these to the modern office?
Exactly. And it's not just offices either, right?
Yeah.
Look at the whole urban gardening trend, bringing more nature into cities. I mean, that's huge right now.
It's like we're remembering those outdoor rooms, even if they're just a window box or a rooftop garden.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all connected. We're realizing that the spaces we're in, they affect us. Our mood, how we work, how we connect with each other, it all matters.
That's so true. I have to say, reading a pattern language really changed how I think about design. It's not about making things look cool. It's about problem solving, Meeting needs, how we live, work, interact, it all goes back to design.
Absolutely. And Alexander, he really cared about the human experience. He felt like modern architecture had lost its way a little, too focused on the big statement, the fancy forms, and not enough on the people actually living in these spaces.
Yeah, it's like we forgot about the humans behind the building.
Exactly. And that's what's so great about his work. He's saying, let's put humans back in the center.
I love that. So after really diving into a pattern language like this, what's like the one big thing you'd want our listener to take away? The core message?
I hope after this deep dive into a pattern language, people realize like they can make a difference, Even small changes can make a space better. It could be, I don't know, something like putting a bench in your yard so your neighbors can stop and chat, or even just like asking for more parks in your town or city.
It's about taking action.
Right.
Making our world a little better, a little more human. But it makes you think, like, we've been talking about all these great patterns, but what about those places where it's like the opposite? Where these patterns are missing, those spaces that just feel off somehow.
Yeah, those places, right? It's like Alexander, he didn't really have a name for them, but it's like the opposite, the anti-pattern. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to those massive parking lots of those suburbs where all the houses look exactly the same. It's kind of sad. It's
like they forgot about the humans who actually have to be there.
Yeah, they might be functional, like technically they work, but there's no soul, no sense of place, no connection.
Right. And it's not just about them looking bad. It's studies have shown those kinds of places, they really do affect us negatively. They make us feel more stressed, less connected.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, even lonelier. It's weird how that works.
Makes you wonder, how did we end up with so many places like that?
I think it's a few things. Sometimes it's just about money, right? Cutting corners. Sometimes it's about, like, efficiency being the most important thing. But I think a lot of it is just, like, not thinking about how these choices actually make people feel.
Yeah, like we said before, it goes back to human-centered design, but so often it's like we've forgotten about that.
For sure. It's like we forget we're humans, not just like robots or something. Yeah. And that's why I think Alexander's work is still so important. It reminds us that design matters, how we design things, whether it's a city or a room or even just where we put a window. It all affects us.
It really makes you think differently. So as we wrap up this deep dive into a pattern language, I want to leave you with this. You have a choice. You can just accept the world as it is, or you can look at it through this new lens, through Alexander's eyes.
I love that.
And you can start to really see the beauty, but also the problems, right, in the spaces we use every day. And then maybe ask yourself, what can I do to make my little part of the world a little bit better, even just a little bit?
That's it. It doesn't have to be this big, huge thing. It could be as simple as getting a plant for your desk at work, or rearranging your living room so it's easier to have a conversation, or even just being more aware of the spaces you choose to spend your time in. Just notice,
Yeah, and maybe if enough of us start to do that, those little things, well, maybe they'll add up to something bigger. Maybe we can create a world where we all feel a little more connected, more alive, more at home.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
It would. And on the note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive into a pattern language. We hope you enjoyed exploring these timeless design ideas with us. We encourage you to check out Alexander's book. It's a fascinating read. And until next time, happy exploring.
Thanks for tuning in to Blueprints to Bookworm, the deep divers on all architecture. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of architecture. Got a topic or book you'd like us to explore? Drop it in the comments below. See you next time, where every blueprint unfolds a new story.